Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. Gina, I think you'll see this on the replay, so I hope you're sleeping by now and you don't have to ever be sorry. And I hope you had a great day. The Beatles Anthology 4, many people believe that it's a cash grab. Well, isn't everything? If someone's putting something out, it's because they can make money on it, or they wouldn't be putting it out. I think the Beatle estates also try to keep the Beatles relevant. And this is the way they do it. They try to garner a new generation of Beatle fans. After all, it's been 30 years since the anthology was released in November, 30 years ago. Hey, Mitch. I've watched the first two segments. The third one will be on tomorrow. And it finally got here. Like the winter, like Thanksgiving, Christmas to follow. We wait and it gets here. But some fans are not very happy. Okay, it's a compilation album. And it brings a whole new wave of Beatlemania for this season with it. But some people aren't happy. Now, me, I don't know. If there was one word injected into a former Beatles song, I'd be the first online to get it. That's just me with the Beatles. So 30 years after the first double album hit the shelves, Anthology 4 has arrived with 36 new tracks. New tracks, not new tracks. It's packed with some unreleased songs, outtakes, demos, and even more studio banter, which the Beatles are very funny, actually, when they're caught with their banter. And Beatle fans have come to love that over the years, especially since the Get Back was released on Disney. But this time, Giles Martin, the original producer, George Martin's son, remastered the first 3 volumes and curated the new Anthology 4. So what is it? I didn't know what it was going to be when I heard the news. Well, it's a reissue of the previous volumes, restored, expanded multimedia project. That's what it is. The Anthology 25 also includes the newly restored and expanded Beatles Anthology dossiers, now 9 parts, reissued coffee table book, of course, and it was left in the safe hands of Giles Martin. So how could he do any wrong? He was George Martin's protege and son, and now you have McCartney at 83 and Ringo at 85, the only living members. But fans aren't happy about one song on this whole project, and not happy that some songs are not on this project. Now, the Anthology 4 has 13 previously unreleased takes, mostly from 64-65 period, and 23 tracks from previous archival editions, mostly in the past decade. There's also a 2025 remix of Free as a Bird and Real Love, which the remaining Beatles recorded with the help of John Lennon's demos during the initial Anthology project in the mid-90s, and a snippet of Now and Then, which was worked on and then George Harrison didn't like it, and there was a hissing noise and a buzzing noise on the cassette tape demo they had. And at that time, they didn't have the new AI malware that can take the voice out, machine learning. So they scrapped it. So we look at it. So what don't they really like now? So the Beatles took to their Instagram account on Friday to share a clip from the music video of Real Love, the new remix of it. And they wrote in the caption, "Say hello. The 2025 Anthology music collection is out today." Now, the Beatles story told through a unique collection of outtakes, alt demos, and all that stuff, which we knew because anyone who heard about this a year ago read about it on social media. Ordered a complete vinyl CD box set, grab the new volume Anthology 4 as a standalone edition. You could do that. Available to stream now. The iconic Real Love video has been fully restored in 4K. Watch it on YouTube. The whole PR move. But after hearing Lennon's voice on the Real Love, several fans really went after Apple. The voice is notably clearer, but it also sounds a bit high-pitched, much more than the 96 remix. So, of course, people were worried since they had heard about AI. Is this really John Lennon's voice? Was it put through AI? Now, the Beatles had admitted to using the technology to enhance Lennon's singing on their final song, Now and Then, which is also on this anthology. So others blamed Martin and complained they wanted the original producer, Jeff Lynne, back. They thought maybe it was just in different hands and it didn't work. So many people scoffed at it. AI voice is terrible. I'll always go with the one original mix from 96. The mix sounds like John is singing along out of tune. Everyone liked the 96 mix now. It works better. And it had a worldly quality of John, kind of from a distant shore. Now, I'm not sure about the new mix yet. I thought it was perfect the first time just because I was waiting for a new Beatles song for 25 years. A lot of people like the 96 mix best because his haunting voice gave it the vibe. Now, the mix sounds raw, and maybe the AI brings out the vocals too much. And who is singing? Is it John Lennon? AI Lennon? They didn't feel it was working. The voice sounds terrible. Someone else must have done this. Jeff should have been involved in this. But you have to remember, these same people complained in 1996, "Oh, the mix is terrible. His voice sounds weird. I wish they'd remix it." And now they remixed it. "Wow, this is terrible. I wish they left it the way it was." Which one do you want? The 96 mix is still out there. You can judge for yourself. But as a whole, though, it seems to just want to catalog more great moments in the recording studio. But it's gotten mixed reviews. As a Beatle record, it's not very good. Nothing new and exciting. Rarities. Wow, the strings only version of something from the Abbey Road's 50th anniversary edition. Who cares? Right? The only good thing about this is that it's not Anthology 5, and hopefully that won't come out. But give it time. The entire Anthology collection has a nonstop creative spirit. What grabbed us and what made us fall in love with the Beatles. From the Hamburg Punk Rock Volume 1 The trippy studio experiments of Volume 2, the mature world, weary grit of Volume 3. Now, as part of the unreleased takes, fans can hear the Beatles working out the early songs. Tell Me Why, Nowhere Man, Every Little Thing. A previously unheard take of Hey Bulldog. And Lennon is veering between your blues and your comedy. Uh, Two songs, I Saw Her Standing There and Money, came out of the Beatles bootleg recordings of 63. And an oddity released for only a few hours in 2013 to extend the European copyright. There's a first take of In My Life. Lennon's kind of thinking out loud as McCartney and Starr are joining in, trying to support him. I've Just Seen a Face. Lennon jokes about 50s skiffle pioneer Lonnie Donegan. Lonnie's going to be sorry he didn't sing this one. And there's a great take, early on take of This Boy. So the Beatles' creativity shines through this, which it would. It's the Beatles. AI can't take that away from them. And that's the plan for Anthology 4. It gives fans another glimpse of how this mega band operated, how they used everything about themselves, past and present, to get these tunes to where they were, which were some of the classic timeless hits of not even our generation, of generations to follow. Now, the Anthology collection is 190, 191 tracks. It's all available for downloading and streaming. They're deluxe box sets, 12 vinyl LPs, 8 CDs. It's separately available, as I said, Anthology 4 is a standalone box, either triple vinyl or 2 CDs. So you look now, what is it? Is it peak Beatles? What are we listening to? Did Peter Jackson go crazy with the AI and mad scientists, and now everybody's using it and creating songs that were never really written? Are they bigger than ever, the Beatles? The Get Back project a few years ago sparked a new wave of mania. Biopics are in the works. One's coming out in 27 about the Beatles. Bookshelves are going to be filled with books about this now. Documentary, Beatles 64. When does it become a saturation point? Can it be far off where people just say, I can't hear it anymore? It's getting crowded, the landscape. But look, a TV blockbuster, a book, 3 album releases. It returned the Beatles kind of for at least a weekend in 96, right before Thanksgiving or during it, and in 2025. We got to go back to be real Beatle fans again, almost hoping that we'd hear a Beatles song that we knew it wasn't going to be on there, but they fooled us. Astonishingly popular. But it doesn't reveal anything we didn't already know. The Beatles' habits in the studio being very succinct, their intentional approach, backwards tracks and all that. Nothing was really different all that much. Flashes emerge where you say like, wow, that sounds different. But when does it feel like diminishing returns? Okay. It's full stop with archives. Track gift box, all that I saw standing there. Track 1, side 1 on the debut album, and closes with Now and Then, the band's final single. And it's essential listening if you're a Beatle fan. You have to. It came out. You have to. It's like your kid, I don't know, 3 years old, makes 30 pictures in school that day. The first one looks like the second one looks like the 19th one. They're all scribbled, but you have to look at them. Right? Now, there's a series of reissues. The White Album, the Escher demos, it's in its entirety have been released. but the pool now is a bit shallower than before. There's really nothing. Carnival of Light, everybody's waiting to hear, and for some reason, mysteriously, it never comes out. That's a 10 or 12-minute musical montage they made. So these 36 tracks don't feel wasted because there's not much more left. It's almost like seeing your favorite star when you know they're going to retire. Uh, but the thing is, you're kind of like in the studio with this one, hearing a lot of banter. Um, George Harrison's order on While My Guitar Gently Weeps, cheese and lettuce and Marmite sandwich, coffee on the side. And we know he wasn't getting stoned or drinking a lot during it. Ringo's introduction of Octopus's Garden. You got to smile. It's Ringo. And you peel back layers of certain songs and you find hidden aspects, right? I Am the Walrus, you hear the wheezing, uh, shows the range that that song contains and how hard it is to hit it. Hypnotic, take 20 something of Strawberry Fields for together. It's LSD soaked. Hey Bulldog, which I loved, and it's one of the most neglected songs in their whole catalog. I thought it was a good rocker. Got lost on the Yellow Submarine album, but it doesn't shy away from its rock and roll spirit. The Anthology 4, they put plenty of the Beatles being the Beatles on there, and that makes up for a lot of the stuff we've already heard and been there, done that. The ad libs are hilarious. They always were. The Beatles are funny dudes. And their humor is very British, which is even different because we don't hear that when we're hanging out with our friends. But there's also an innocence, even in, during Abbey Road. You remember they're 28, 29. They're still young men during Abbey Road. John's rehearsals of Julia, very open, very frail, very poignant. The marijuana order before they get into Baby You're a Rich Man. There's plenty for fans to go over. Elvis's cover, You're So Square, Baby I Don't Care. A long list of McCartney songs that were abandoned during the Hamburg days. He used these and they never brought them back. Can You Take Me Back? It's a coda for Cry Baby Cry. Free as a Bird and Real Love. The final stop on a 30-year archival endeavor for them to give to us. So are we unable to look past the flaws in the Anthology 4 and still adore the Beatles? Look at Bob Dylan's bootleg series, right? The Beatles as people in our lives that we've allowed freely into our lives. Hey, Zach, how are you? Your Blues and Helter Skelter. Your Blues was played. They were all in like a corner of the studio for acoustic. And actually, Your Blues, I believe, in the White Album, that session, that was the only time they ever really played together. Your Blues, they played all together. But good. I'm glad you're good. Happy Thanksgiving, my friend. I'm going to lose my advertising here. So someone send me 90 cents and I will let you hear the new Real Love. I think it's good. We'll let you give it a listen. I thought it was okay. Okay, excuse me.
All my little plans and schemes come like some forgotten dreams. Seems that all I really was doing was waiting for you. Just like little girls and boys playing with their little toys. Seems like all we really were doing was waiting for love. No need to be alone. No need to be alone. It's sweet love. It's sweet. Yes, it's sweet love. It's sweet.
Not one of his stronger songs, but it's him.
From this moment on, I know exactly where my life will go. Seems that all I really was good was waiting for love. Wanna die if I ain't dead already. Girl, you know the reason why. In the morning.
So when I rant, it's a respectful rant. It's like talking to your father when you know he's wrong and he's 80 and you don't want to embarrass him to make him feel that, hey, I am wrong. Look, of course it's a cash grab. No one does anything in business without trying to make money. I think they try to keep the Beatles relevant because you have to remember most of the Beatle fans, our parents, if you're 64, which I am, they're gone. Or they're not really giving a damn about Paul McCartney touring next year. They're worried about their MRI results. So if you go to a Paul McCartney concert, you do see quite a bit of younger people there. Is it in to like an 83-year-old? Not really. But you could sell it with, my parents got me tickets. I'm going to go. You don't certainly go now to hear Paul McCartney because his voice is shredded. And I'm being kind. You go to see him. It's like when people went to see the Beatles, they didn't go to hear the Beatles. They went to see the Beatles. If you wanted to hear McCartney, you could stream his music from now to forever in fine form, produced. No, you want to go see the legend, the guy that meant so much to you when you were young, depending on your age. Was I disappointed with the anthology? It's kind of like going to the movies, watching Jason, and you know something's going to happen, and you scream, "Don't go in there!" I was hoping to hear something, although I knew it wasn't going to be there because I had the track listing way before it came out. It wasn't there. Now, did it have to be there? No. If I haven't made my decision on the Beatles now, nothing's going to change that. And I really doubt that anything is going. I tell you the truth, if they proved that Paul McCartney really did die, I'd still be a Beatle fan. If this was William Campbell, I'd say, wow, Campbell's good. I just wouldn't call him Paul anymore. You know what I mean? There comes a time when you say, I give up, like the Monopoly man. I think that this, like Zach said, the difference in the crudeness, the difference in the rawness is something to behold because you've never heard it before. Now, will it be something to behold next week? Probably not. You just have something to compare it to now. The original one that you thought you loved, maybe you won't love it this one as much, but you still love the other one. Or if you love this one more, you'll start playing this version, the anthology version, instead of the one you used to play off the White Album. All in all, it's the Beatles. How bad could it be? If you're hearing the Beatles music, how bad could it be? You could disagree with some of the direct inject and how they lowered the bass on I Feel Fine. Used to hear the snare drum wobble, the springs. The snare drum has springs under it, and you'd hear the little whispering of the springs. That's gone now. They must have edited that out with AI. But and that's a good thing to edit out. Although you remember that spring sound, like where is it? I don't have it. I've heard it. Someone sent it over to me from a studio. It's good, Zach. But of course, it depends where you listen to it. You know, if I'm listening to it on these stupid speakers I have connected to the computer, it doesn't give it credence. You know, I could hear the difference, but you know, really, with my real nice headphones on, I'll be able to pick stuff up that I haven't. I saw the first two on Disney, and the next one's coming out, I guess, at midnight. Probably out now, so I'll have another 3 hours or whatever to watch, or 2 hours tonight. Look, Helter Skelter was written because Paul McCartney had heard the new Who song. I could hear for miles. I could hear for miles. And he thought it was very loud and raunchy, and Paul McCartney wanted to outdo it. So he did Helter Skelter. He wanted loud, dirty, and raunchy. He wanted to beat the Who. A biamp stereo in you? Oh, then that'll be fine. You'll be good to go, my man. I'll tell you though, the songs that I think are really good. I think I Feel Fine sounds very clear now. Baby, You're a Rich Man. I love that song. That was supposedly written about Brian Epstein because Brian Epstein had said to John once, how does it feel to be one of the beautiful people? And John retorted, so are you. We've made you rich. No, it doesn't. But that was what McCartney heard. And he heard that song and said, wow, that's loud and dirty. I want to get louder. That was his opinion. Back in the USSR, paid homage to the Beach Boys and Chuck Berry. And you have to remember when the Beatles were in Rishikesh, Donovan was there. Donovan, in fact, taught McCartney and Lennon the picking style that McCartney ended up using. Lennon used it on Dear Prudence and Julia. And McCartney started using that picking style. Donovan taught it to them both. He did, Zach. Donovan was a tremendous acoustic guitar player. He said John learned it in 2 days and Paul learned it in 3, and it took Donovan like a week and a half to learn it. But John was a very, very good acoustic guitar player. A lot of people don't realize that. He was excellent, as Paul was. But John played with feel. John was a feel rhythm guitarist. Even his solo on Get Back, George had walked out when they were working on Get Back. George had walked out on the band. That's why Paul had John do the lead, and incorporating an "I Dig a Pony," incorporating the lead and rhythm in that song. John did a great job playing lead and rhythm at the same time. Yeah, John was an underrated guitarist. Wasn't technically great, but he was real good. And yeah, it would have been interesting. In fact, John wanted to sing "Oh Darling." At that time, there was a little, they were uncomfortable a bit, but John would have wanted to sing "Oh Darling" instead. In fact, he would have done a better job with that song than Paul. He said, if it were 3 years ago, I would have asked Paul, but no one was getting along. They were walking on eggshells, but I think John would have "Let Me Roll It." Also, John could have done a great song. That song by McCartney, "Let Me Roll It," and yeah, I think "Oh Darling," but yeah, "Helter Skelter." I could see John wailing that, shredding. Yeah, John had a very soulful voice. You could read his emotions on the song. See, Paul hid his emotions. Paul would sing about Penny Lane and Eleanor Rigby and Martha, my dear. John was a confessional writer. You could tell when John was talking about himself. Paul talked about characters. Paul wrote like Billy Joel wrote, or we Brenda and Eddie, and kind of guarded himself. Paul's very guarded and politically correct. And John, I really feel the raw emotion would come through. Like he'd be singing Helter Skelter, be thinking about his mother getting run down by a driver. He'd be almost crying, screaming it. He's like a method actor. I like to, and I just made this up actually. Yeah, John, if you know what a method actor is, John, I believe, uses emotion to enunciate. And I think that's why his songs are so powerful. It's like writing something for your mom when she passes away and them asking you in front of everyone at the viewing or the funeral to sing the song looking at her picture. That's what I always believed John did. I believe that John meant every take. When John sang the song God, God is a concept from we measure our pain. Let me say it again, almost like he couldn't believe he was saying it. He had to say it again to himself, I think, because he couldn't believe he was saying it. I don't believe in Beatles. I believe in me, Yoko, and me. I believe that is exactly what he felt. He was ripping off a diary page and singing it to you. Paul McCartney would never do that. You think Paul McCartney would ever write a song about Jane Asher? Well, he did. I'm looking through you. Where did you go? I thought I knew you. What did I know? Jane didn't want to be a stay-at-home woman. She was an actress in plays around the country. And Paul, we can work it out. He wasn't having a good time with her at the time. That was written about her, but he would never really put himself into it. For I've Got Another Girl, right? For I Have Got Another Girl. It was written about her. But John used his emotions. And the funny thing was, I don't think John got up and said, I'm going to use my emotions for a hit song today. I think it just came out. Look, In My Life, he was on a bus ride in Elmira, Spain. And he wrote that. Passing things. Sgt. Pepper originally was supposed to be a concept album. It ended up not. But that's why Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields, they were going to write about London and from when they were kids and what they do in London. And then it got away from that. But that's what it was supposed to be. Maxwell's Silver Hammer. They sent Mal out to buy an anvil. Mal Evans was on a few. Mal Evans, holds a key down. I'm trying to think of the song doing Rubber Soul. Wait, the song Wait. There's a buzz in the background. That's a key on the Mellotron that Mal Evans is holding down for 3 minutes. You could hear him. He brought an alarm clock for A Day in a Life. They had to count out measures. And you hear him counting in the background. And the alarm clock goes off. That was to start the next stanza. Yeah, Maxwell Silverhammer, John couldn't stand. Paul was a storyteller. And John was a rocker. John didn't want to tell stories. During the White Album, when they were away, Paul met this African-American guy from the islands. And he used to say, when Paul would ask him, how you doing? Oh, blood da, man, I'm doing good. He took that expression and wrote that song because of that guy. I think the guy tried to sue him, in fact. Is there? 1 to 8 in the middle of Don't Pass Me By? Really? Yeah, that was Ringo's. Ringo was funny. Ringo wasn't much of a writer, but he didn't have to be. You can't. How are you going to walk into with Lennon McCartney sitting there and give him a song, right? Yeah, but Don't Pass Me By was a good song. It's a country song. And it was his first solo composition that he ever wrote. He loved country. That's why they always gave him a country song on the albums, Act Naturally and all that. And it went to number 1 in Denmark in 1969 on their charts. He was on the piano just banging away writing that song. And it was exciting for him because, he did it himself. And then he recorded that crazy violin moment. So it was recorded in 68. And it's just a great song for him. The lead vocal track, in June, right? Starr counted out 8 beats. 19 with the CD version, right? In 87, that's when it happened. The mono mix is faster than the stereo mix, and it has a different arrangement of the violin and fade out on that. But Ringo, Ringo could play a little piano. Underappreciated, absolutely. Yeah, that came out in 87 in that mix, the CD mix. And it's a different outro with the violin when they released it in CD. But yeah, good song. Good song. Ringo tried. And I agree, he's underappreciated. Ringo was Ringo. Ringo completed the puzzle. The Beatles were the Beatles before Ringo, and the Beatles were really the Beatles with Ringo. As they said a long time ago, and they were trying to be nice, Pete Best was a good drummer. Ringo was a good Beatle. And Pete wasn't. I'm a drummer. Pete couldn't keep 4 in the bar if you handed it to him. He couldn't keep 4. I agree with you, Zach. If you're a drummer that plays too many fills, they think you're trying to step over the lead vocals and be a ham. But it's very important for the bass player for you to be steady. Drummers are underappreciated. Look at Stuart Copeland. As much as Sting, Stuart Copeland is much more talented than Sting will ever be. Stuart Copeland wrote all the music in the 80s when you heard those, the Equalizer backdrop songs. Stuart Copeland did them all. Stuart Copeland's an amazing musician. There are a lot of drummers that were great musicians. Neil Peart played in one bar, in one what most people couldn't do in a 4 bar. Keith Moon as well, quick. But the Beatles Anthology, look, it's a must if you're a Beatle fan. If you're not a Beatle fan, you probably will be after watching the whole drawn out series. It's like going to a Greek Easter Mass. It's like 8 hours. But you know what? Afterwards, you're glad you did it. Crown amplifiers. What were they? Were they remakes? I'm not sure. I used to use Stax when I was on tour. They're vintage, right? They're 2-channel power amps, right? For rack systems. They had laboratory amps. Crown was good. Vintage Crown. They were good. I don't know a lot about their sound, but I know they were their amps were good. I know in the 70s they came out. They had a 150 amp preamp. It was called the D150A, and it was good, really good. They're expensive now. Probably cost you $1,000 for a 1976 one, but the Crown were good. I remember they were all metal, all silver, right? Silver metal, very high tech looking. They were cool. Black knobs, I remember. Yeah, they were like very shiny silver. I remember. But happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thank you so much at this hour to come in and say hello to me. Zach, thank you so much. Yeah, Crowns are good. The amps are great. I like the Crown amps. I like the look. I like the sterling silver with the black knobs. Is that what you have? My friend used to use it on his mixing board a while back. I remember that he never had a problem with them. I remember I used to use Vox. I used Marshall stack amps. Vox were very big in the 60s. You needed a heavy coffin amp, it was called, for the bass, like McCartney's bass. They had a big amp called the coffin amp because it was so heavy. Black with silver knobs, okay, or they had silver with black. A coffin amp is a bass player's amp because it's heavy. It has to be heavy to hold the bass. But yeah, they used to call them coffin amps. The bass amp. Everybody, thank you so much for coming in. God bless you all. I'll be on during the weekend. And happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And enjoy your turkey sandwiches for the next week. Take care.